To be honest, when I played it again, I wondered why some things turned out the way they did, and I also discovered some negative things that I didn't notice at the time. I got quite down about it. I'm really happy that we were able to fix those things in the HD remaster. Eiji Aonuma. This is Legendary Adventures, a Legend of Zelda playthrough podcast. We've completed the main quest of Twilight Princess, and this week I'm going to go into a little more detail on the differences between the original release of Twilight Princess and the HD version. I've touched on some of those changes throughout the episodes, but I hope to give a more complete look at the changes made, and provide some of my thoughts on the different versions as well. To be clear, this is not an exhaustive look at every single change made between the versions. When you factor in the changes made to all the textures, the graphical elements, on top of tweaks to gameplay, UI, text, and features, there are just too many to detail in a way that would be interesting or practical. Eiji Aonuma was the director and producer for the original release, and a producer on the HD release. He stated he wanted to roll right into a remaster of Twilight Princess after completing the Wind Waker HD in 2013. But by that point, Breath of the Wild was far enough along that it wasn't feasible to dedicate people and resources from the Zelda team to make it. So instead, he reached out to an Australian-based developer known as Tantalus. After a few months, Tantalus secured the job. They would spend about a year and a half touching up the game and reworking some details. It was ultimately released on Wii U in 2016. Tantalus CEO Tom Crago said Aonuma was very involved in the project and would sign off on everything they did. Assistant director Tomomi Sano was the main point of contact and supervisor on the Nintendo side of the project. In a 2016 interview on Nintendo's now-defunct social media service Meverse, Aonuma said the visuals were a big reason why he wanted to remaster the game. I don't think that improved picture quality really affects the play experience in an action game like Mario that much, but The Legend of Zelda is different, he said. When the picture quality improves, you can see far into the distance. It makes the game seem all the more real, don't you think? And solving puzzles becomes even more fun. That's why we've always wanted to make a remastered version of Twilight Princess with better picture quality. Let's start by touching on the visuals of the game. They've been overhauled and are now presented in a sharp 1080p resolution. To match the sharper resolution, the game's textures have been reworked across the board. Crago said in an interview with Nintendo Everything, "We touched every single art asset in the game. So we worked with every element to up-res it and improve it, and make it look better on Wii U, while remaining sympathetic to the original versions of the game. So there was a huge amount of work in that. While it appears to me that the artists at Tantalus largely attempted to stay faithful to the original textures of the game, they occasionally took some liberties and included some Easter eggs. For example, screenshots of Breath of the Wild appear inside the Castletown shop prior to its buyout by Mallow, and new textures in Castletown depict Link and various Zelda races, including the Rito. This caused a stir among Zelda theorists at release. The artists behind them admitted those textures were not in the original, and the inclusion of the different races was just for fun, so they're now widely considered non-canon. The lighting has been tweaked for the game as well. I don't think it's as dramatic as the lighting changes were for the Wind Waker HD. In the Wind Waker, things were brightened up, shadows were added, additional light sources were added, and the way that the light interacted with objects was changed on the whole. In Twilight Princess HD, it seems the picture was brightened up again. A quote from Aonuma may explain why the lighting in Twilight Princess HD was not changed as dramatically as the Wind Waker's. He said in a 2016 Meverse interview, "We wanted to recreate what we felt was the main feel of the graphics in Twilight Princess. That soft, mellow glow. So we took a long time to get the graphics just right. I lost more than a little sleep comparing the versions and worrying about them." In a 2016 interview with Nintendo Life, Sano said this about the graphics. "We went through a lot of trial and error with the graphics. When we created more precise models of objects to go with the higher resolution, we found that everything was too clear, and we lost that soft, delicate atmosphere that you get in particular at twilight or with the light in a forest. We had to strike a balance between the parts where we could be precise and the parts where we try not to make things too clear. We worked hard to make the graphics look really nice while still preserving the feel of the original. Between the two versions, I'm somewhat torn between which one I prefer. I like the darker lighting of the original, but obviously the HD version is sharper. The new textures are often quite nice as well and look good. I think on the whole, I probably prefer the HD version, even if I think it would look better if it was darkened up. Other minor changes included some adjustments to in-game text and dialogue. The only one I'm aware of is on Death Mountain, and it's only thanks to ZeldaWiki.wiki, because I didn't notice the change at all as I played. But the wiki points out that the Goron who tosses Link off Death Mountain prior to getting the Iron Boots says, "A weak spirit is no match for the might of the Gorons," in the original GameCube version. While in the HD version he says, "A human strength is nothing compared to a Goron's." The wiki claims the changes were made to fix typos and errors, which could be true. There's no sourcing for this. I tried multiple internet searches to help me find other examples of changes to the script, and I came up empty-handed. And I was not going to spend hours comparing every scrap of dialogue between my recordings. I will note that in the case of A Link to the Past on Game Boy Advance, that in addition to correcting some typos and errors, some of the changes in that game sometimes reflected actual changes made to the Japanese script. And in some cases, roughly synonymous words were inserted into the script, apparently to bring it in line with some later entries released. When making the Wind Waker HD, the developers made a number of changes to the gameplay and quest design. Twilight Princess HD also features a number of quest changes in the game, though the changes to the overall structure I feel are ultimately on a much smaller scale compared to the previous title. The changes to the quest are all weighted towards the first act of the game. Players now only need to catch one fish to trigger an event where Sarah's cat returns home in the opening sequence in Ordon Village. And each of the Tears of Light collecting sequences have had 4 shadow insects removed. In the Faron Woods segment, an insect clinging to the exterior of Korra's home is gone. One insect on the other side of the locked gate near Korra's house was removed. And one insect was removed from the entrance to the Poison Fog section of the woods. The final insect was removed from a large tree stump in the center of the Poison Fog. All of the insects removed in Faron Province are in close proximity to other insects, and the removals don't seem to have much impact in my opinion. In Eldin Province, a shadow insect was removed from the Kakariko graveyard. Another was removed from the future location of Malamart, meaning players no longer need to enter this building. There was also one removed from the top floor of the hotel in Kakariko, meaning players don't need to venture beyond the kitchen if they don't want to. And an insect was removed from the top floor of the lookout tower, meaning players don't need to enter that building as well. The removals in Eldin Province are more impactful with the 2 buildings cut out entirely, though players still need to go into the hotel, and I wind up searching it all the same, and the path still leads players through the graveyard. In Lanayru Province, an insect was removed from the back of Fire's cannon. Another was removed in the flight sequence up the river using the Shadow Kargarok. The final 2 insects were removed from Zora's domain. In the original version, there are 2 insects flying over lily pads in the waterfall basin. The second's about midway up in an area with pillars. It's on the west side of the map in the GameCube version, and players need to use Midna's jump to reach it. Of the 3, the removals in Lanayru seem to be most impactful. If I were making decisions on which bugs to remove, however, I would swap out the one from the flying section with the one in Castletown. It would help speed things up more. As with the Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD also makes a number of changes that are intended to speed up the pace of the game. Perhaps most obvious is the removal of tutorial prompts that appeared every time players collected a rupee valued more than 1. In the original, this prompt appeared each time players booted up the game. In the HD version, the prompts only appear the very first time players collect a rupee of that type on a save file. The number of rupees that Link can carry at a time have also been increased. Link's first wallet now holds 500 rupees, up from 300. The first wallet upgrade still doubles the number of rupees he can hold, while the third wallet upgrade doubles it again. Link's wallet capacity maxed out at 1,000 in the original version of the game. Being able to hold more rupees means players can complete the Malamart quest quicker than in the original game. Link's climbing speed on Ivy has also been increased. He moved very slowly while scaling Ivy in the original. It may be less realistic, but improves the pacing in a big way. There is also a button on the gamepad screen that allows Link to transform into a wolf instantly. In the original version, players needed to talk to Midna and then select an option to transform. It's not really bad in the original per se. I was never bothered by the extra step, but I prefer the quicker transformation of the HD version. Let's talk a little more about the controls and the gamepad features that were added to the HD version. Many of the features that were originally seen in the Wind Waker HD return here. Players still access their tools and maps on the gamepad screen at any time. Items can be assigned to buttons without ever having to pause the game. The gamepad also allows for motion-controlled aiming using the gyro. I think the motion-controlled aiming is faster and smoother in general. The HD version also has options for aiming. By default, aiming happens in the first person like the original on GameCube, but players have an option to have it done in third person like the Wii version. I'm not a big fan of the Wii version. I didn't care for it too much when I played it. I've mentioned this before. I played the GameCube version first. I got it in 2007, and it was the only version I played until I picked up the Wii version sometime in 2012. I mostly didn't care for the controls of the Wii version. I wound up never completing it. That said, the aiming on the Wii was nice, and I prefer the third-person view for aiming in this game. I change my view to third-person aiming every time. In addition to the new gamepad features, there are also some changes to the controls. Back in Season 9, I noted how I was a fan of the original control setup for the Wind Waker on GameCube. That version of the game featured 2 action buttons. The actions were split between the A and the R buttons. I also noted how I felt disappointed that Twilight Princess walked that back. Now, the original Twilight Princess on GameCube didn't completely leave the Wind Waker's controls behind. The R button is still used for grabbing objects and shield attacking, but its actions were scaled back significantly. The HD version scales back the second action button even further. The ZR button does not perform any grabbing functions, it's used only to perform the shield attack. The fishing rod is now reeled in by pressing the assigned button rather than tilting down on the C-stick. There's also a few other changes to the controls, but I feel for me at least, those are the biggest. The game still controls well. I do like using the R button to grab, but the A button works fine. And with the R button's functions already reduced so much, it's not too much different to just consolidate them all to the A button. The gamepad does have more buttons than the original GameCube controller, and because of that, players have an extra button to assign items to. In the GameCube version, talking to Midna was assigned to the Z button. Now Midna is assigned to the L button, with the R button used as an extra item button. I should note the Wii version also allowed players to have items assigned to 3 buttons. In terms of handling, I can't say I noticed a difference between the GameCube and HD versions when it came to handling Link himself. I will note that Eiji Aonuma highlighted tweaks that were apparently made to the swimming controls. He stated multiple times at the game's first release that he wasn't satisfied with the swimming controls, and he felt that they were improved in the HD version. When it comes to Link's horse, I feel it moved quicker into turns and took turns a little more sharply in the original than it does in the HD version. I don't know if I have a strong preference either way, but I may be leaning just a little towards the original horse handling. With the Wind Waker HD, the developers added 2 new items to the game. One, the Tingle Bottle, replaced a previous item in the game, the Tingle Tuner, which enabled functionality to Nintendo's social media service, Meverse. Twilight Princess HD does something similar. The game now includes 50 Meverse stamps hidden in chests throughout the game. Assistant Director Tomomi Sano explained the idea behind the stamps. In a 2016 interview with Nintendo Life, she said, "There are lots of treasure chests placed around the world of Twilight Princess, but most of them just contained rupees. By placing lots of different items inside them, it makes it more exciting for players when they open one, and if it's something they can actually use, that's even better. We decided to put in stamps that can be used in Meverse. We thought about the kind of things players would be able to use while talking to each other, and would actually be useful to them. And in the end, this led us to settle on the pictures of the characters with different expressions, as well as the Hylian alphabet. I see a lot of ire about the addition of stamps in the game, and I'm not sure why. I think they're a solid inclusion. The original version of Twilight Princess threw rupees at players fairly often. Frankly, more than players will ever use. The developers obviously included some additional big-ticket items to give players something to spend their money on. The Malomart quest requires players to spend 1,200 rupees, and there's a piece of heart in Castletown that requires players to donate 1,000 to obtain it. The Castletown Malomart also sells magic armor for 598 rupees. This armor drains rupees while worn, but he will be protected from damage. Despite all that, I still found myself at my limit often when playing. In the original, this becomes a bigger annoyance, because Link will return rupees that he can't carry to the chests and then close the chest again. It's intended to encourage backtracking, but I didn't, and I dislike not being able to open all the chests in a dungeon. Thankfully, this was removed from the HD version, and swapping out some rupees for stamps further reduces issues of coming across more rupees than you ever actually use. The stamps aren't usable now, but like the photos in Link's Awakening Deluxe, they can be picked up as just a fun collectible. The other added item is the Poe Lantern. This is given to players when they bring 20 Poe souls to Giovanni. It will light up in areas where Poes are found. Because Poes only come out at night, using the Poe Lantern can help players track them down. I typically did not collect all the souls, and I rarely if ever use this new item. But players determined to track them all down may find some use for it. Twilight Princess HD is the first mainline Legend of Zelda title to make use of Nintendo's NFC figures. Players can scan Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf amiibo once a day. The Zelda amiibo will refill Link's hearts. Link amiibos will refill his arrows. The Ganondorf amiibo changes Link's hearts to a blue color and doubles the amount of damage that he takes, essentially unlocking a harder difficulty. A Twilight Princess-themed Wolf Link and Midna amiibo is the biggest draw, however. It unlocks an all-new, optional combat gauntlet dungeon known as the Cave of Shadows. In 2016, Tantalus CEO Tom Crago told Nintendo everything about how the Cave of Shadows came about. He said they had hundreds of ideas and suggestions, and that for one reason or another did not make it into the final game. When asked about the amiibo, however, he said, "It actually came pretty late in the day. We had talked with Nintendo about amiibo functionality, but the great thing that happened was of course that we were able to incorporate an all-new amiibo into the title, which is exciting." That was a conference call that we had with Aonuma-san to talk about how we could use the amiibo, and what would be the best way to incorporate it into the title. And I suppose that's an example where we suggested building new areas. But we were kind of made to narrow our focus a bit, in order to be realistic about the time constraints and so on in order to ship the title. So what we ended up with was the Cave of Shadows. The Cave of Shadows is obviously based on the Cave of Ordeals in the main game. It's also in some ways an improvement over the Cave of Ordeals. Players have access to the Cave of Shadows by scanning the Wolf Link amiibo on the quest status screen. They are then transported to the dungeon and told to complete its challenges in wolf form. Players cannot change into a human Link. There are 40 floors divided into 3 challenges. Players must complete each challenge in order. They will be transported out of the dungeon after a section is complete. Assistant Director Tomomi Sano explained the Cave of Shadows was designed as a way to challenge players to fight enemies that were designed to be fought as human Link, but that Wolf Link could still fight. Despite her saying that, the first challenge, which is limited to the first 5 floors, is focused on shadow beasts. I find that it's better to fight them as a wolf anyway. The 6th floor holds a treasure chest with a red rupee and a portal out of the dungeon. Any hearts that players have left over will be saved to the Wolf Link amiibo, and can be used to heal Link in a later run. The second challenge sees players clearing 20 floors. The first 5 are the same as in the first challenge. On the 6th floor, a door opens revealing a new set of themed rooms. Floors 6 through 20 have a gray stone appearance with a faux pillar facade. It's during this challenge that we really start to run into the enemies designed to be faced as human Link. I find the Helmosaurs to be particularly painful. We also start to see some real variation in the rooms. On the 11th floor, there are lava vents. They're covered by grates and pose no real threat. The 14th floor also has lava vents, but this time lava geysers will shoot out of them. On the 17th floor, players have to avoid quicksand while they fight. And the 20th floor holds a purple rupee and the exit. The The final challenge sees players taking on all 40 floors in one go. It is quite the challenge. I did not complete the Cave of Shadows on this playthrough. The 21st through 40th floors feature a new visual design that is sort of a combination of the look of the first two sets of challenges. There are also flags and banners on the wall. Players will come across more obstacles like lava geysers, rooms with ice and snow, and if players complete all 40 floors, they'll receive a wallet upgrade. If players have already collected the other wallet upgrades, they receive the Colossal Wallet, which will allow Link to hold up to 9,999 rupees. It's really not all that good of a reward in my opinion, but it's available. The last thing that I would like to mention when it comes to Twilight Princess HD is the addition of Hero Mode. Like Hero Mode seen in other Zelda titles, it's a harder difficulty option. Players take double damage, and recovery heart drops are removed. It also mirrors the game to match the Wii version. The mirroring is a nice twist, as it actually does make the game world feel unfamiliar. Overall, I think Twilight Princess HD is an improvement over the original game. There are a few minor things that I may quibble over, like the lighting, but on the whole, I think Twilight Princess HD improves on the experience, with additional options, sharper visuals, quicker gameplay, and improved quest design. That's it for this episode. Next week we're going to be taking a look at the world and legacy of Twilight Princess. If you want to follow along, please subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, thank you. You're incredible. I'm Paul Riley, and I will see you next week.